Hey, Foot Clan, in order to support our show, we need the help of some great advertisers. And in order to find great advertisers, we need to learn a little more about you. So please go to podsurvey.com/footballers and take a quick, anonymous survey that will help us get to know you a little better. That way we can show advertisers just how great our listeners are. Plus, once you've completed the survey, you can choose to enter for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's podsurvey.com/footballers. That's podsurvey.com/footballers. Thank you for your help.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from pristineauction.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in.
Bappity Bo.
It's going to be a great one. I promise. Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Mike and I are going to hold you to that.
Yeah. I hope you don't break any hearts today.
No, he won't be breaking a problem. I'm going to hold you to. This is going to be an excellent
Well, guys,
show.
they're
You
always
said great, Jason.
They're always great. You see? See what I'm saying? They're always great. I'm always right.
That's a good point. Wait, is there a difference between great and excellent?
Yeah, you're over-promising. You took his promise.
Wait, is excellent above great?
Of course it is.
Really?
It's excellent.
So if you did some work,
But it's great.
Look, go back to elementary school
That's
grading.
what I'm saying. Like the teacher puts it on your paper. If she writes excellent, what makes that better than great?
It's
just
another
a bigger
level.
word. Bigger word. More syllables. Syllables.
Yeah, I think it's the syllables. That really takes it over the top.
So that's what praise comes down to. The more syllables in the
Yes.
praise you receive.
Then how come greatest is one fewer syllable than excellent? But clearly it is
He did break you down.
the
Yeah.
greatest.
He broke you down.
But here's the thing.
Outstanding.
Excellentist would be better than greatest.
Oh, my goodness.
And Andy's promise is quickly disappearing.
Evaporating as we know it. Tuesday, February 26th. Always nice to be back into the studio. Fresh week of shows. The Fantasy Footballers, you can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Make sure you follow us over there. You get all the latest news, notes, information about the show. You can also follow us Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. Watch the show on YouTube. Click the bell. You'll find out when we do some fresh live streams and different video stuff. And you can support the show by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and ad-free on Stitcher Premium. All right, let's get right into it. By the way, a lot of exciting stuff coming up. This is our free agent preview and predictions show. And we'll talk about who's available, who's out there, what teams can benefit. Maybe talk a little bit about, we're going to make predictions on the show, but then when the chips start to fall, we'll be able to see what players are not just the players signed and what they do for fantasy, but who's impacted, what quarterbacks get a wide receiver that are going to change their outlook for the new season.
Sure.
Things like that.
This episode is the equivalent of the pictures on the menu.
Oh,
we're just setting you up. We're tantalizing. We're getting the appetite going of, ooh, now I know what to look for. That looks good. That looks fun. So it's just all about having a good time.
Normally the pictures don't actually translate to what you get on your plate, though. Is that
well,
what
that's very often what free agency is as well.
Yeah, and it's a weird year, so we'll talk about that. I'm excited. We'll make some predictions on the show. Quick question of the day is about big names. Who's a player that you will stay clear of, or you think you'll stay clear of, that other players won't, simply because of the big name? Okay?
Sure.
Jason should start because his is the best kind of example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll lead it off, and it's a shame because he's one of my keepers forced into that situation in our league of record. But in general, I believe next year in the draft, I will probably be universally bypassing Leonard Fournette. I talked on our recent episode of Things to Remember. The injury risk is a bug I want no part of next year, and clearly I'll have a piece of it because it's the NFL. Every single player is an injury risk. But Leonard Fournette has a special talent at that. He's been injured in high school, injured in college, injured in the NFL, And so, when you've got a guy that is struggling with that for that period of time and the injuries are leg-related, a lot of reoccurring injuries of the same injury, I'm just going to avoid that situation. In general, you can look at it from a fantasy standpoint, forget the injuries. He's been very, inefficient with his touches, but he's had so much volume. Now
he's been old school Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, sure, where he's getting enough volume where he's fantasy relevant, but in general he's not doing what you would expect. He's not even doing what average efficiency would dictate the results to be. So, I think the combination of him being further removed from his, 4th draft pick overall, they lost a lot of games last year. They're probably going to bring in, someone else to help compete for touches and back him up. And I'm going to wait. You can have the Leonard Fournette explosion. I'm going to keep waiting and pivoting to other players.
No, it makes some sense, and I think it's less like it's starting to translate as an attitude/work ethic issue for Leonard Fournette. He's had issues with weight in the NFL. He's had issues with injuries, which often, look at everybody gets injured. Every single player in the NFL gets injured. There are some players that just don't miss games, or they fight to get back and they stay healthy. They battle through it. And some players that don't. We don't know what category Leonard Fournette is in. I know that last year was a lost year, but it's not translating to average draft position, to ADP. I'm seeing him go a little higher than I'd expect, much higher than guys like Devonta Freeman and Dalvin Cook. So I understand that, and it's translating so far in average draft position because he's still young. 2 years ago when he was playing, he was winning you weeks, right?
Yeah. His running back efficiency score was still running back 14 this last year, even though he finished, clearly much further down the list. But even still, I think the hope when you draft Fournette is not that he's the RB14, but that he's the RB4.
Yeah, his situation is interesting because it's very tantalizing right now. Because right now it's Leonard Fournette. The Jaguars have talked about they're going to release Carlos Hyde. T.J. Yeldon's a free agent. Corey Grant is not a huge risk, but he's also a free agent. So, you're talking right now, it's Leonard Fournette. But then you have all of the off-the-field stuff with the team. Is
he a dynasty buy or sell for you, Mike?
Man.
If you're making that call right now.
If I can get a really solid return, like there's people who are still in on Leonard Fournette. If I could sell him for that, I would probably do it.
Here's a question. I've seen this. I literally saw this yesterday on Twitter. Is Leonard Fournette, what would you rather have, a top 3 pick in this year's rookie draft or Leonard Fournette? If you could trade Leonard Fournette for the 101, would you do it?
I have the 103 in our Dynasty League, and I would trade it for Leonard Fournette.
I would too.
Yeah. Things can change, though, as soon as next week, right, Brooks? We've got Combine review on Thursday. We'll start talking rookies and how they're tantalizing.
Yeah. Yes, sir. We might bump that up to Tuesday, but it's coming next week. Yes.
All right. The player that fits the bill for me that I'll stay clear of that others won't because of the big name, and maybe he'll burn me 2 years in a row, but it's Tyler Lockett. I am simply not investing in 57 receptions under 1,000 yards just to try to hit the jackpot on double-digit touchdowns again. There was a time when Vincent Jackson, you remember Vincent Jackson?
Oh, yeah.
There were seasons that Vincent Jackson had in the 50-catch category that he totally salvaged due to the big play potential. I'm not saying Tyler Lockett will not win people fantasy weeks. He's just not a player for me trying to grab 57 receptions. And where you draft Lockett, which, by the way, he's going ahead of Doug Baldwin right now, where you draft Lockett, I feel like you have to make him a more important part of your fantasy team than I want to make him with 57 total receptions last year. So, and it went as good as it could go in terms of touchdown totals.
He's not going up from there.
I don't think so.
Touchdown percentage.
Now, if he's a 75 catch guy, then you're probably fine. But they could add some other pieces. What they do with the running game and what they want to do with the running game. So Tyler Lockett's my current avoid, despite the big name and the big popularity.
Sure, I got.
Sorry, Lockett.
I got a pair of guys, and it's simply because of the price. The first one is going to be all off season, so get ready for it. But Patrick Mahomes will not be on any of my teams. I'm looking at Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going in the 2nd round, and that's right now. Like, it's the back of the second. That could easily make it up to the beginning of the second, fringe back of the first.
Especially when they grab Lev Bell, right?
Yeah, but here's what else is. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a huge disappointment for fantasy purposes. I think Patrick Mahomes will not be on winning teams. I think that the cost of grabbing him will be too much. But the other guy I want to highlight right now because of the price is bewildering to me. It's Phillip Lindsay.
Fantasy darling.
Yeah, and I like him. I like the player. Things just went so right for Phillip Lindsay for most of the season. And then, you saw him towards the end. Things really started to fall apart when he wasn't hitting consistently on those big plays. You have the concern of the new regime coming in, shaking things up. There's still a third-round competent running back on the team in Royce Freeman as well. So just for people paying up right at the beginning of the third round for Phillip Lindsay, it's a little too rich for me right now.
If you want to peer into kind of the way we manage our teams, I can be honest with you. I like Phillip Lindsay. There's part of me that likes the Joe Flacco equation with Phillip Lindsay, but I find myself trying to trade him.
Right.
In Dynasty. I'm trying to cash in on Phillip Lindsay's value right now. And a lot of this free agent show bends itself towards kind of a Dynasty buy-sell angle because you're betting, right? This is like the time of year where you are betting on Damian Williams being the guy or not being the guy.
Yeah.
You're betting on Leonard Fournette having the backfield versus not having the backfield.
Well, in some of these situations, it's not just bets of I think this player will go there, but the knowledge of this team has openings at this spot. This would hurt or help their quarterback or help someone maybe that was drafted last year as a rookie who hasn't broken out yet. He has real opportunity. This is like the insider information. The SEC is going to be calling soon saying, shut it down.
I like that. By the way, no news on the show today. We don't have anything big to report, but make sure that if you're playing on a fantasy a fantasy sports platform that doesn't suck, check out Sleeper.
Overlooking the Michael Crabtree news.
Is that news for you, Mike?
Yes.
Well, we're not overlooking it.
No.
We're talking free agents.
We're talking big news.
And now he's a free agent.
D-U-N. I said it once. I'll say it again. Done, done, done.
Yeah, you called your shot on the Michael Crabtree being done last year, and you were 100%.
Yeah, that went quick
R.I.T.
for Crabtree.
It was over.
Free Agent Frenzy.
Well, there's so much to talk about when it comes to free agents. They redefine kind of the way that offenses end up looking as we head into the new year. There are players now. Let me just throw a random situation out there. Zay Jones, okay, wide receiver for Buffalo. 5 of his 7 touchdowns over the last 5 weeks last year. Dynasty buy type of character.
Yes.
Everything changes for Zay Jones, and everything we say about him if Buffalo makes a big splash in free agency or in the trade market, right?
The nice thing is they can't. I mean, I guess in the trade market. But
well, they have $83 million. But your point is that there aren't names out there that make you
at the wide receiver position, there's
no
names
Allen
in free
Robinson
agency
rolling around
that are very big, but more so in running backs. When it comes to wide receivers, this year is just oof.
There are definitely no
Oof.
There's not like one particular elite guy. Like we can harken back. You already brought him up, but Vincent Jackson, the year when he went to Tampa Bay, like that was like holy crap. There's a big time free agent wide receiver who still has years left. But there are still good players in here. I think there's enough.
It's
enough
a good year
talent.
to be a free agent wide receiver.
Yes, it is.
In a middling level or perceived above average but not great, right? Would it be fair to say that there are no elite or great wide receivers available this free agent class?
Yes, I would say that without any hesitation.
Because
I mean, great.
Golden
Elite.
Tate, John Brown.
See, I think
those
Golden
are the
Tate
two.
I think he's great. I think Golden Tate is a great wide receiver.
I think Golden Tate
30-year-old.
But he's older, yeah.
was a great wide receiver.
Right. I mean, he's the cream of the crop, right? He's the wide receiver win in free agency, and I would
But
not say
otherwise,
he's elite.
You know, John Brown.
At this point in his career,
John Brown's had his ups and downs. Tyrell Williams, who really knows how much volume and what he can really add to a team. So at the wide receiver position, you're right. And we're going to break them down. We're going to give you our predictions of some solid fits. Let's give a lay of the land first, guys. From a cap space perspective, we've talked a lot about, we talked about Lev Bell on the last show, and, the Jets were a team that we brought up as a possible destination because their cap space is ridiculous.
They have the second most projected.
Do you want to break down unrestricted free agency a little bit?
Yep. So we're going to talk about free agents. Restricted means that your team can either put certain tags on you. I mean, basically, think about it. Restricted means that the original team has every chance to get that player back. Unrestricted is the player gets to go do whatever they want and no one can stop them. Unless you get franchise tag.
Yeah, so, examples of a restricted free agent situation would have been, like C.J. Anderson a couple of years ago with Denver where Miami offered him an offer sheet. Denver matched the offer sheet.
Where he was a restricted free agent.
Where he was a restricted free agent, and therefore they kept
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So let's start, though, at the quarterback position and talk about the best available free agent right now is Nick Foles. He bought his free agency from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I hope it works out.
It will. And then there are some names. You guys both think he won't work out.
Wait. It'll work out for him financially.
That's
what
I'm talking about.
That's all I mean.
Oh, yeah, that'll work out for him. I don't think it'll work out for him success-wise.
So Nick Foles is 30 years old. We've seen him Super Bowl MVP, came on last season. Was a boon to that offense towards the end of the year. Ryan Tannehill, Blake Bortles are not free agents. Both are potential cuts by the respective organizations. I don't think anybody expects Ryan Tannehill back in Miami. And then Blake Bortles, the odds are still very low. You have the company line out there. He's the quarterback right now. That's what Tom Coughlin said because it is factually accurate information. But let's start with Nick Foles, teams that we think could be possible destinations. Because, Mike, when I look at your roster on in our dynasty league, and I need some depth behind Patrick Mahomes, I look at Nick Foles and I say, hey, I want to go trade for him because he's at least a starter type of player.
I mean, he should be a starter. What's hard, what I was throwing out there, I hope it works out for him, one, because he was going to make a lot of money if he had just stayed in Philadelphia for another year, but he would have been a backup, of course.
$20 million.
But it's definitely a softer market for free agent types of quarterbacks because the top two spots that we can think of, right, are Jacksonville and Miami, but they still have quarterbacks and they would have to make a really big decision. Like Jacksonville to cut Blake Bortles, you're eating $16.5 million towards your cap.
I would like to eat $16.5 million.
I don't think you would feel very good afterwards. That's a lot of dirty
Can you spend
fiat
it
in your tummy
after you've eaten it? Probably not.
Can you spend it?
Yeah.
I would imagine that you could get a good amount of it out and clean it up.
Oh.
Am I right?
That is literally dirty money.
That is dirty money. There's a new, the will it blend discussions.
Oh.
Will it pass?
I thought you were going to say, will it spend?
will it pass?
You might want to wash your hands.
At the grocery store. Look, Jackson. To your point, though, regardless of the decision they make, Jacksonville drafts at 7. Miami drafts at 13.
Yeah, and they also have that
both
available.
can make decisions with rookies. I do think Nick Foles finds a job. For me, the destination is Jacksonville. I think Nick Foles ends up in Jacksonville. I think they want to bring in somebody that they view as, and I understand it's all subjective, but someone they view as experienced and more of a stable
presence
and a leader. Nick Foles gets heralded. Say what you want for him on the field, but people like playing with him. There's an intangible effect that has happened in Philadelphia over the last 2 years, and he wants to lead a team. Being a leader is what he wants to do. Jacksonville needs that. Bortles hasn't been that to date, or at least been capable of giving consistent performances to back it up, right? You can be a leader. If you stink, doesn't really land very well.
Right.
But I think Jacksonville's my prediction for Nick Foles. I'm going to stick with that one.
And yeah. I've got Miami because I believe of the two between Ryan Tannehill and Blake Bortles, Tannehill's the most likely to get cut. Honestly, I think they both probably do. But if I'm playing the odds of probability, Tannehill will go first, and so I think that Foles would be a big win for Miami.
And I'm going to throw out a more surprising destination that of the New York Giants. I think that the Giants know. I mean, all the jokes aside about, Eli's
Gettleman
our
does
guy.
not know.
Gettleman. No, I know.
He doesn't know.
I realize that the fantasy football Twitter community hates Gettleman for taking Saquon over. And look, if I was on the clock there, there's no chance I wouldn't have taken Sam Darnold. But the point is, Gettleman is not as bad as he is made out to be. That is my belief.
Worse.
And I think that he knows he's got to replace Eli Manning. He's either doing that in the draft or doing it in free agency. And his only option in free agency, I believe, unless he wants to take a gamble on Teddy Bridgewater or something, is going to be Nick Foles. So I think that that's a possible
destination. You think that the numbers make sense, though? Because Nick Foles is going to be out there looking for a good contract.
He is going to be looking for a good contract.
He could have gotten $20 million to be the backup.
Well,
and if he signs to the Giants right now, he's signing to be the backup.
Look, whenever you're talking
he
about –
He won't sign to be a backup.
No,
he will
won't.
not do it.
No,
he will not
won't.
sign with someone to be a backup. He would have already stayed and been happy where he was.
I think
cut?
they would be willing to replace Eli with Foles and say this is the future. They'd pay for that, and then you're in a major market. I mean,
right.
Foles is smart enough to realize he's going to make a lot more money if you're the starting quarterback for the New York Giants.
Would he do that to the Eagles?
I mean, that's another thing. You're in division. There's an advantage.
I'm just slowly tearing apart your argument.
Nick Foles has been in a position where he has thought about hanging it up before. The only thing he wants to go do is lead a team for a couple of years. I don't think he represents a long-term solution for the Giants. It's interesting. It certainly would be the ultimate play by the Giants to kind of take your quarterback and use him against you. So the other quarterbacks, I think it's more likely that a player like Ryan Tannehill or Blake Bortles gets a starting job than I do Teddy Bridgewater. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is 26 years old. To me, the destination you just brought up, New York, I think the Giants are a perfect home for Teddy Bridgewater, because if you need to pull the plug on Eli Manning in Game 4, or Game 6, or Game 8, or Game 1, you would have the option to do that with a player that has led an offense, that is multiple years removed from his major injury, and would not cost you a lot to stash him back behind Eli Manning. So my prediction for Teddy is to head to New York. But again, I think Blake Bortles and Ryan Tannehill have a better shot at a starting job, not that there are very many out there.
That's what I was saying. There's not really many starting jobs available. I think for all the reasons you were talking about for Teddy, I think he makes great sense as well for Washington. They need a stopgap guy. They're not sure if Alex Smith is going to be back or not. At this point, they at least have to plan for 2019 that they don't have someone. And Teddy, I don't think will command – he won't command Nick Foles' level of a contract.
Yeah, I've got Teddy re-signing with the Saints. I think look, he could be the replacement to Drew Brees, and even if he's saying if he's going to sign somewhere to be a backup, might as well sign for the team he's with.
Sure,
that he's they're Super Bowl contenders with an aging quarterback that obviously is not going to be playing 5 years from now. So it would make sense to me if I was Teddy to stay in New Orleans.
As far as Tannehill goes, I could see a couple of different homes for him. It makes sense to me for him to somebody like Cincinnati as an insurance policy for the Dalton experience, and then someplace like where he could step in due to injury. I mean, he's probably going to be a backup. Bortles is probably going to be a backup, like you said, and you still have the rookie class. It's more likely that Murray and Haskins end up being starters this year than those two guys.
Dalton. So I don't think Tannehill, would come in and be the replacement, but Dalton could get cut.
I was just going to say that the dark horse here is the Cincinnati Bengals for any of these quarterbacks, because Dalton can be cut for a $0 dead cap. They can just move on, and he's right now he's a lame duck quarterback. You got a new coaching staff coming in.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the last year of his contract. You could easily move on from him.
I think you're a year removed from that process. You may be in a Blake Bortles situation this year that Jacksonville was in last year, but
the problem with that is then Andy Dalton is just good enough to keep the gray clouds away. And then you go, oh, well, maybe this can be the guy. Then you got to figure out a contract, and then you're stuck.
Well, I just think you end up drafting somebody this year and then using this as your evaluation year on Dalton. I mean, Zach Taylor, my concern is that Zach
Taylor.
Where
are the Bengals drafting?
Same place all the other teams are drafting.
Nice.
Cincinnati does not have a first-round pick.
Cincinnati is drafting 11th.
Oh, yes, they do. I have them at 9.
That escalated quickly.
Oh, I was looking at the cap room. That's what I was looking at. I
okay.
apologize.
All right.
But
So they could.
Zach
they could
Taylor
draft
has
someone.
come out and said all the right things. Says he's a perfect fit for the offense.
Mm-hmm.
He's been endorsing Andy Dalton. And let's be honest, when you look out there at the free agent landscape, I don't want Ryan Tannehill. I don't think him coming in running my offense is going to be different than Andy Dalton.
If Andy Dalton
I'm
was
talking about Foles.
Sure, but
I don't think Foles is an upgrade on Dalton.
I was going to say if Andy Dalton was a free agent, if they cut him today and before free agency, opens up, you can start talking to free agents on the 11th. Andy Dalton would be my number one quarterback on the market. I would if I'm Jacksonville, I'd go after Dalton. So
if they cut him, he'd be the best fit for Cincinnati. That's what we're saying.
it's like it was like when the Cowboys lost Des Bryant. And the list of teams that really could use Des Bryant definitely included Dallas.
All right, we're going to move on to running back. Before we do that, I do want to remind everybody a few days left to take advantage of the monster pre-order bonus situation. I'm talking about the Ultimate Draft Kit. It's available for pre-order. Mike, you wanted to say the word bonus.
I did.
Well,
It just
let me
it
talk
didn't
about-
feel right.
Hey, if you pre-order at ultimatedraftkit.com before March 1st,
What happens?
you get the lowest possible price on the Ultimate Draft Kit.
Okay.
It's good.
You get a $10 gift card to shopballers.com where you can get a T-shirt.
Oh,
just
Jason.
like Jason wearing his Get Bodied
Oh,
T-shirt.
Jason-
It's great.
Jason's phrase.
You get
Yeah.
you get $10 free and clear to fantasychamps.com if you need a trophy, a jersey, whatever the case may be for your league, a ring.
Oh, that's
Championship ring.
excellent.
And you get a chance to win one of the Listener League spots.
Jay, you threw out excellent too quick.
No,
You should have gone with great.
I did go with great.
I
And
believe
now
we
I went
established
excellent.
excellentist.
Give me the best.
Yeah, so the Listener League spot is available as well.
Greatest.
UltimateDraftKit.com. Let's talk running backs because top available running backs, the big story this offseason is going to be where does Le'Veon Bell land? He's enjoying his free agency. Wouldn't you say that, Brooks? Have you seen him on Twitter?
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah, he's
going.
enjoying it very much. He's asking, he's polling. He's saying, where should I go?
Mm-hmm. He's going to clearly land in the diving room full of money. He's going to. That is where he lands. Whoever is going to pay him the most money wins Le'Veon Bell.
It will be impossible for NFL general managers to, as more free agencies takes place and more free agents are signed, if he's sitting there, it just becomes more and more interesting to those GMs.
Right.
How do we make this work? How do we bring in a game-changing type of player that can put us over the hump? He will get signed. He will be paid. Whether it's everything he wants,
Right.
I still think it probably is. It's more that direction than a surprise.
The game that Bell will have to play here where you hold on, unless he's already getting off, like his agent is already getting some numbers.
Not till the 11th, Mike.
Just say, like, because there's the first wave where the huge money goes out. If his contract is not in that first wave because he holds out thinking he can get more money, that it's gonna be a
That
really
doesn't
interesting,
sound like Lev Bell.
really interesting game of chicken.
Now I have a note here. He scored as many fantasy points last season as Brooks did. So there is the year removed. Now
And I drafted Brooks.
he
Disappointing.
in the first round,
No.
like Lev. It'll be interesting to see what happens. You guys have the same destination, and I understand it.
Yeah.
From a cap room perspective, the Jets have the second most room in the NFL, so you guys both have New York being the home.
I think New York needs. I mean, how much would that help Sam Darnold to have that good of a pass-catching running back? They've got the money to do it. Then from Le'Veon Bell's perspective, he's going to a major market. More money. He could start his rap career. I'm sorry, Le'Veon Bell. Continue this
Thank you, Jason.
awesome hip-hop career. So,
And then they
everything
signed
makes
Bortle
sense.
or Beasley.
Yeah,
And then they collab.
everything makes sense to me for
Beasley and
the
Bell.
Jets.
You guys both have the Jets. I would imagine they're the favorite to land his services. I'm expecting them to go in a different direction. at the running back position, still make a splash in free agency. So I have Lev Bell landing in Houston.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I think Houston, sixth most cap space, a need for playmaking ability. 27-year-old Lev Bell joins up with Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and they make their run at the AFC title game. You got to take advantage of your years with Clowney and J.J. Watt on the defensive side of the ball. I have Houston as
Clowney is.
I'm going to pivot.
I think Clowney is a unrestricted free agent, I believe.
Yeah, Clowney's going to get some money too. I'm going to pivot because Jason already threw out the Jets, and I'm going to go with the man who's got the power. He still has money, and Le'Veon Bell fits that old school football mentality. I think Gruden makes a play.
It's one of those two teams.
And the Oakland Raiders go, and they get Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, did you pivot?
Yeah, I'm going to pivot here.
Okay, all right. I don't think that. Here's the confusing to me. If Oakland does any splashy move, I know they have the money and they have the history of doing it as an organization. But what we saw last year says that this is like a 10-year plan. So why in year 2, with as bad as you were, do you make any monetary splash?
Because I think
to ruin. I mean, your team's not going to win with him.
I think Gruden believes his team would win with Le'Veon Bell.
Interesting. But not with Marshawn Lynch?
No.
Not with Doug Martin?
No.
Not with Amari Cooper?
No.
Khalil Mack?
No, he's old school, man. He just needs a young running back.
Well, it will be interesting to see what happens. Tevin Coleman is the running back.
Tevin Coleman.
All right, 25 years old. Interesting player because last year we expected a whole lot more from him in a season in which Devonta Freeman was injured. He was only 167 for 804. He had 56% of his games were good, 25% busts, but he did he could break the long play. And I think teams will see potential with Tevin Coleman.
And he also has more film than last year. It was the timing of that year was pretty unfortunate for Coleman because he's had some great years where he looks like the guy who just needed an opportunity, but Devonta Freeman was in front of him.
I have him in New York. I just want to throw that in because he's the other side of the coin with, if you think Lev's going to New York, I think it's Tevin Coleman in New York. I think he can complement what they have on Elijah McGuire and build around him at a far cheaper price than Lev Bell.
So a question for the clairvoyant Mr. Dunn over there.
Yep.
Where's Isaiah Crowell? Where is he on the Dunn scale?
No, he's not done.
Okay,
he's not done. He's average.
Still got one.
He's average.
He's got not one. No, not.
But
done.
Isn't he a cut candidate?
Yeah, I expect if they sign Le'Veon Bell or Tevin Coleman, then I would expect Crowell.
Now, if you had asked me is Bilal Powell done, I would have said yes.
Yeah,
so, for what you were.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
I thought they cut Crowell. Was I wrong? Did I just
no?
read
There was
that
just rumors.
They might cut him.
Yeah, and so I have Tevin Coleman landing in New York. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, I think the Jets and the Raiders are two spots that they have money available. They could use a running back, so that's where I've got Lev Bell going to the Jets, and I've got Tevin Coleman going to the Raiders.
And this is where things get a little bit interesting for me because it requires a little bit more of a chain. I think that LaShawn McCoy is a strong cut candidate, even though Buffalo they have a ton of cap. They can easily afford him. LaShawn McCoy's contract is not too steep. But
you think LaShawn makes a return to Philadelphia?
That's interesting.
If he's cut?
That is definitely
I think
fit perfectly.
I think that could happen.
He would fit in perfectly. And I think McCoy's still okay with Philadelphia. It was more of a disliking of Chip Kelly. But so I've got I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm reading the whispers from the bushes of LaShawn McCoy being out. And I got Tevin Coleman going up there to compliment Mr. Josh Allen, the wild stallion, Josh Allen.
If you are in a dynasty league, and I'll throw a couple other names out there. We'll talk about Mark Ingram here as well, 29 years old, free agent. Are you looking at Lev Bell and Tevin Coleman as buys or sells in dynasty?
Tevin Coleman.
Are you going out making offers for them, trying to grab them and hope they land someplace that you like?
No, I am not personally. Those two guys are guys I'm fine holding on to. I'm not trying to
You're not pursuing
I'm
them?
I'm not pursuing them personally. And
Yeah.
if a great offer came, I would be willing to let go. But I don't. Look, they're older. Lev Bell. Yeah, I know.
Lev Bell here's the problem with Lev Bell. He's going to a bad team.
Yeah, he's going to a bad team. He's 27 years old right now. The hype and the news, the splash that he'll make will be big. He'll be a first rounder. So I feel like buying him in a dynasty is probably going to be a mistake.
He'll be expensive. And Le'Veon Bell's it's another fascinating thing for what I'm interested in Le'Veon Bell is his running style is so unique that it's some guys have tried to duplicate it, but not very many, of the being very, very patient, waiting for things to pan out. He's always run behind an incredible offensive line in Pittsburgh. What does his running style look like if his O-line just stinks?
Well, look, it's a question that you can throw out there because we've never seen it. But
Yeah,
I don't
we'll get to.
necessarily think that it's a problem. I think great players are just great players. So,
We'll see.
You've seen Marshawn Lynch have success on 3 different teams with 3 different offensive lines. I think he's in that category more than he is beholden to that offensive line. But you're right.
But I say, like, we've seen guys like Shady be great and be real meh if his offensive line is not making things happen for him.
Todd Gurley.
Yeah, him too.
All right, Mark Ingram. We've debated Mark Ingram's destination. I think that there are enough teams that need to make a mark on their running game that he's not returning on a discount deal to play second fiddle to Alvin Kamara next year. I think he believes he's a much better pass catcher than the amount he's utilized in New Orleans, and I think he moves on. Baltimore is the destination that I have most likely for Mark Ingram to make a mark. I mean, he can come in there, solidify that running game. That's my home for Mark Ingram. And they have the 10th most cap space. They could do it.
That makes sense. I'm going to stick to my guns. I believe it slightly less than I did when I earlier said, Mark Ingram is definitely coming back.
Well, you would hope it would happen already.
Right. So I'm going
because you could have signed an extension already,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
I'm going to have him staying with the Saints.
I have him staying too.
What is our D-Day for open season? What is the free agent?
I believe the tampering
league year's
window
starting.
starts on the 11th. So
That's when they all get the wink deals done?
Yeah. That's when Frank Gore signs with, was it the Colts?
No, it was the Eagles. He duped the Eagles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and so then you get 2 days of tampering. So the 13th or so, I think, is free agency opening, something like that.
All right, other interesting running backs. Let me ask you this question. Both 28 years old. C.J. Anderson, we saw what he did with the Rams at the end of the season. Carlos Hyde is 28 years old. Would you rather add Carlos Hyde to your roster or C.J. Anderson to your roster if you're an NFL team?
Carlos Hyde.
I think there will be teams that would rather add C.J. Anderson based on what you saw him do at the end of this season. He came from a 1,000-yard season. Right?
Right.
And then was behind Christian McCaffrey, not getting play. And the next time you saw him, he was winning games, setting records for the Rams, being a great back on the field. I mean, he beat Todd Gurley, his record for the first 3 games as a Ram, starting rushing. So, I mean, C.J. Anderson was fantastic. I think C.J. Anderson is a good Mark Ingram replacement. Should Mark Ingram leave? He's a guy that can be a bruiser like Ingram, can catch the ball like Ingram. But I've got him going to San Francisco. I don't think a team is going to sign him as the starter. They're going to sign him as a depth piece. But you have a team in San Francisco that had a lot of injuries, that has the Shanahan rushing zone system similar to Kubiak's that he will succeed with. You have a couple of connections there as well.
Welcome to Buffalo, CJ.
Adam
That's where I got
Peters. Adam Peters is the vice president of player personnel. He was the one that brought C.J. Anderson into Denver. He's in San Francisco. I think that would be a really good landing spot.
Mike,
For CJ, I think CJ's back with the Rams.
would you rather have Jay Ajayi than either of those two guys?
No.
Yes.
Is Jay Ajayi a dark horse in the free agent landscape?
He's
25 years old.
He certainly is. I wanted to throw out the names of Jay Ajayi and T.J. Yeldon. I think when you're talking about just actual price that you can get these guys, and weighing price and weighing skill and ability, I like T.J. Yeldon a lot in this landscape because I don't think he can command the type of money that Tevin Coleman or Le'Veon Bell can go after, even though he's the exact same age as Coleman.
Yeldon could end up on a better team.
Yes.
Right. Yeldon can end up being a change of pace back for somebody.
Yeah, I think Yeldon makes a lot of sense for the New Orleans if they move on from Mark Ingram.
I'm going to mention some other free agent running backs, not necessarily for us to make predictions on, but just to kind of give you the landscape because their departures mean things for other players on the team, okay?
Right.
So one of those players is Marshawn Lynch and Doug Martin. Both of them are free agents in Oakland. Jalen Richard is a restricted free agent. He had over 800 overall yards last year.
That'll be interesting.
I think they'll tender him. That's my prediction. So I want to get that in your mind. He would be a dynasty buy candidate for me. Jalen Richard could have a clearer path to a bigger role if they don't go out and spend the big money on a free agent.
Yeah, I can see your argument that Oakland will not spend up this season. They'll wait one more year till they're in their new digs, and they've got the money to spend.
They got all these draft picks that they're about to make.
So, if that happens, I agree that Richard would be a nice candidate, but you're taking a risky pick there. The one guy I think definitely needs to be mentioned as well, Mike Davis. He got a lot of play in Seattle. He's an unrestricted free agent. If he leaves town and they don't replace him, that's good news for Chris Carson and for Rashad Penny to step up their game.
Other free agents, I mentioned Lynch, but Adrian Peterson, another older free agent.
And Peyton Barber.
Yep, Peyton Barber is.
He might be able to get him a contract.
Look, Tampa Bay is actually a
Garrett
pretty good
Blunt, farewell.
destination for some. Jay Ajayi going to Tampa Bay or them making a little bit of a splash. I know they signed
Andre
Ellington.
Yeah.
Can barely remember his name, but they could go out and sign someone better than Ronald Jones.
Kansas City has to do something in their backfield.
Yeah, they need
Damian Williams cannot be who you proceed with through the season.
Yeah, they need depth. But I was just going to say, the Carry-On Johnson owners, you guys better be holding your breath because LeGarrette Blount is gone. Zach Zenner is an unrestricted free agent. They have to do just like Kansas City. They have to do something.
And you hope the something they do is more in the Buck Allen category.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, bring in a C.J. Anderson, bring in a bruiser. That I'm not going to be worried with most of the names if they sign. They're going to sign someone.
I think you would be very worried with C.J. Anderson. You just had a template of a coach willing to play a bruising back way more than you liked it.
That's
and
fair.
now this will be the guy you like. This will be C.J. Anderson, and you'll be darned if you do, darned if you don't.
And his coach loved putting LeGarrette Blount out there. Loved it.
You want Frank Gore in Detroit. How about that?
I would aim lower. I want give me
Alfred Blue.
Give me Doug Martin.
Yeah, Alfred Blue or Jay Stu.
Cameron Artis-Payne, anyone?
All right, let's talk about some wide receivers. I think you're going to see something interesting this year. You'll have look, I'm going to call them upper echelon because all you can do is compare them with each other. Golden Tate, John Brown, Jamison Crowder, Tyrell Williams. Those are the bigger names. Players like, Randall Cobb, probably not going to be re-signed. He'll be out there. Michael Crabtree, Nelson Aguilar, and Devontae Parker with their fifth-year options could be released. And so there could be a second wave is what I'm saying, a very under-the-radar. Look, if Randall Cobb went to New England, would you kind of look twice at it? Maybe. You might say, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Maybe.
If Adam Humphries.
Yeah, Adam Humphries would be.
Cole Beasley.
One of those two guys goes to New England, I would be very excited. Because I think,
would you?
I would, because I think that both of those guys are actually talented at the slot wide receiver role.
But Jules is not going anywhere.
No, Jules is not going anywhere maybe this year. But, I mean, Jules was there for a couple of years when Wes Welker was there. And he wasn't doing anything until Wes Welker left. And we know Tom Brady's going to play till he's 82. So there's a little bit of – I'm just saying if Cole Beasley, who's worthless to me, and I'm not going to pick him up, I'm not going to sign him, I'm not going to play him, I'm not going to start him. If he went to the Patriots, I would want him on a dynasty roster. I mean, I'm picking up –
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
I'd be much more interested in my actual pick for the Patriots.
Let's
and that
hear
would be
it.
Golden Tate. I think Golden Tate signs with New England. We've talked about it all offseason. They're paper thin at wideout. Right now you've got, Josh Gordon on the inactive list. You've lost Chris Hogan. I believe they have Edelman and Matthew Slater under contract.
And Braxton Berrios.
So and your window. Look, they're not going to go out and break the bank, but Golden Tate is a fit for that roster.
That's my worry. I feel like this is at age 30, you've got to go out and get a sizable contract from someone who needs a wide receiver. I don't see the Patriots paying up to get him. But in Baltimore, who just cut Michael Crabtree, John Brown is a free agent, they are wanting to build around Lamar Jackson. They need a guy who can catch it at the line of scrimmage and get yards after catch. They need a guy who can block.
Yeah, he can block.
Golden Tate is a perfect Baltimore wide receiver, and they've had success grabbing, free agent wide receivers later in their career. So, I've got Golden Tate going Baltimore.
I had Golden Tate.
You going to give him that Anquan Bolden treatment? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
I had Golden
Steve
Tate
Smith.
going to San Francisco, and then the Michael Crabtree news hit right before the show, and man, Baltimore would be perfect. And I go in and look in the list. I'm like, oh, Jay, you changed to Baltimore too?
Nope.
And he was just still standing. He was still strong over there, but I've joined him. I think Tate goes to Baltimore.
All right, John Brown, resurgence, showed that he could stay healthy, showed that he could perform at a high level. I have him in Green Bay, and here's why. Matt LaFleur taking over, new offense in Green Bay. He worked under Shanahan. He worked under McVay, and this is an offense that has done some pretty good things for an undersized deep threat. Brandon Cooks, Marquise Goodwin, Taylor Gabriel, Andrew Hawkins. These were the undersized, smaller, deep threats that can find a way to get open. And I think he would become very close friends with Aaron Rodgers in that offense because John Brown does what he's supposed to do on the field, and they could use that compliment to Devontae Adams.
My dream spot for John Brown would be Pittsburgh, and I don't think they're going to because Pittsburgh's so good at drafting wide receivers and building them up through their system. But if Antonio Brown left and they brought John Brown in, I would love to just see the opportunity, the target share there. But I think a team that needs him, that knows what he can do, is also Arizona. With Cliff Kingsbury, he played, here in Arizona a couple of seasons ago. I could see the return of John Brown happening in free agency.
And I've got him going to the Pats. They need speed, and I think John Brown can fill that void. And John Brown won't. I don't think he will cost very much.
Do you think that's dependent on the outlook for Josh Gordon? A lot of people don't know whether Josh Gordon's going to get back on the field or not. I've seen more optimistic reports about both him and Martavis getting back on the field this year. Would you see them spending the money if they thought they could get the deep threat and Josh Gordon back?
I would. It's certainly we're talking about, but if you're the Patriots, you can't head into next season assuming that you have Josh Gordon. You just got to be happy.
Even if you already have him, you can't assume that you get him all season. You just, at this point, you have to plan without him, and he is a cherry on top.
And Josh Gordon would be, if you still had him, he would be you'd be super cheap.
Yeah, but I like that. John Brown could play that Brandon Cooks role that they had a while back. We brought up Jamison Crowder, and Andy, you were just talking about John Brown to Green Bay. He is a player that I think makes complete sense in Green Bay as the Randall Cobb replacement. Crowder is still good. Randall Cobb lost a step or
Crowder's
something happened.
Only 25 years old.
Right, and so bringing him in with Aaron Rodgers, I think they've got the speed guys on the outside right now, the tall X receivers. They need that slot guy who can dominate, and Jamison Crowder is a phenomenal slot receiver. You put him with Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur, I think that would be a wise free agency acquisition.
Mike, where do you have Crowder?
Originally, I had him in Buffalo, but I'm just second guessing if that's where I want to put my actual
chips. I've got him in
my
Detroit.
Chips.
Detroit's got to do something.
Definitely makes sense.
That's where I had him. I pivoted to Green Bay, but I love the Detroit connection too, just as Golden Tate's replacement.
Yeah, and Crowder was one of those guys. Like I have him going to Baltimore, but then I can't have him sign two slot type of guy. So I'll go with San Francisco
for Jamison.
Yeah.
All right, Tyrell Williams. If there was ever a player more fit to be overpaid by Oakland, I don't know if there is one. Tyrell Williams, congratulations on scheduling your free agency this offseason. I'm sorry. I don't mean disrespect to Tyrell, but the fact that this is not even, his value proportionate to what he's about to get paid, I don't think exists. I don't think that, you don't hear Los Angeles desperate to get him back. I think he's a talented player. I think he's capped.
Look,
and I think he's a fit for Oakland.
There are certain types of players that every team needs. Every team needs the field stretching speed guy. And this year right now, how many free agents are there? John Brown, Tyrell Williams. I mean, you're going to like Philip Dorsett, who's been, an outright bust since he's been drafted in the league. He's fast, but that's not good enough. So I agree. This is great timing for him. I've also got
43 receptions, 41 receptions, always at about 17 a catch, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I've got him going to Oakland. They know that they have to get some receiver help in there for Derek Carr. They have the money. I think Tyrell Williams makes a lot of sense there.
And Tyrell Williams turns into the player that the Indianapolis Colts thought Dante Moncrief was going to be for them. So I got him as the wide receiver 2 for the Colts, and a huge upgrade for Andrew Luck.
I love that. I mean, I love that so much if he were to actually go there.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with it.
It made me – because I'd been kind of shopping Tyrell Williams. I'm not – one of the lessons we've learned over the last –
My prediction on the free agent show had you pull it back.
No, it wasn't
but
that.
But what if he does?
This came earlier, but it was the same thought. It was the thought of what if he goes to Indianapolis. Because usually I would put my chips on free agent wide receivers changing teams being overvalued and underperforming for fantasy. Over the last several years, if you look at all the wide receiver free agent signings, there have been a couple good signings. Alshon Jeffrey, that moved to Philadelphia, that worked out for fantasy. But the vast majority of those big-name wide receivers changing teams doesn't pay out. So I've been shopping Tyrell Williams. But if he went to Indianapolis, I'd be like, yes, I want him to stay on my team.
So you'd rather hold the lotto ticket?
I am with Tyrell right now.
Brooks, if you can do me a favor, on the show page for today's episode, why don't you throw all the list of free agents on there? You've already written it up, so let's just get it on there just for the show page so people can see. I mean, because there are a wide variety of the secondary type of players.
Yeah,
everybody
there's a lot
from,
of guys.
Dontrell Inman, does he return to Indianapolis? Or Adam Humphries and Chris Hogan and Cole Beasley. Dante Moncrief is free agent again after his $8 million contract last year.
Devin S. Scrumptious.
Oh.
I mean, we are going to get so much play out of our mediocre signing of the week this year.
Oh, well.
It's going to be unbelievable.
Funchess is going to Buffalo.
No.
Yeah,
you know that's happening.
Yep.
They're like, we tried it with Kelvin. It didn't work out. Let's get the other guy.
They just seem like the
that Carolina
same,
thought could be Kelvin.
They seem like the same dude. Yeah, so there are a number of other, does Des Bryant return to the NFL?
No.
Yeah, probably not. At the tight end position, is there anybody you guys want to talk about to close this out? I mean, there's a cut candidate. Cameron Brate could get cut. It's very difficult to make a mark in fantasy at tight end regardless. Cameron Brate's departure would obviously make O.J. Howard owners, salivate.
The one name that I just want to throw out would be Demetrius Harris. He was behind Zeus, behind Travis Kelce in Kansas City. But I think the guy actually, he has some juice if he can find the right fit to inherit an actual pass-catching role with a team. I think he could be somewhat interesting, and I just bring him up because he's probably on your dynasty waiver wire right now.
Yeah, and Tyler Eifert is running again.
Tyler Eifert.
And he's 28 and couldn't end up on another roster.
Look, I get it. If you're an NFL team, you've seen what has happened to Eifert his entire career. He's just missed the entire thing. I would 100% take the shot.
Absolutely. I think Tyler Eifert could make a splash somewhere for sure. And the last thing I would point out is the 2 rookies in Baltimore. They utilized their rookies a lot last year, their first and second round pick, Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, because Max Williams and Nick Boyle, who were also used, are free agents.
That's big.
If they go elsewhere and open up a lot of targets, I mean, that's great news.
And whoever goes to Cincinnati, I mean, because Eifert, C.J. Uzama.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tyler Kroft. They're all free agents.
Is Kroft a free agent
is
too?
a free agent
Holy crap. Yeah, whoever goes to Cincinnati is going to be very interesting.
Imagine if it was Tyler Eifert.
I'm going to just imagine it's Demetrius.
All right. Well, that does it for our free agent preview show. Brooks will post the full list of free agents available in case you want to browse that on the website. And before we close it out.
Pristine deal of the day.
Oh, I like this one. Did you guys realize I put a little poll up for Dalvin Cook?
I did not. What's
So there's
how tall was it?
How tall was the pole? That's your joke.
I got
No,
Brooke. Oh
no.
no! I heard the judge. He laughed.
Let's be clear.
You
Brooks-
can't point for the sound effect when the judge is laughing
didn't
back
point.
there.
I was pointing for
Look.
the rim shot.
Let's be clear. Just because Brooks laughs at something does not make it good.
That's
I
a fact.
disagree, Brooks. You're a beautiful man.
So a Dalvin Cook jersey, by the way, the deal of the day. Dalvin Cook signed Vikings jersey, $62. I don't know why we don't have that on the wall now that he's my dynasty running back. Check him out at Pristine
Look, I've made a mistake not getting Dalvin Cook for 62.
Yeah. So pristineauction.com, sign up, let them know the Fantasy Footballer sent you, bid on hundreds of daily auctions. I put a poll up. Now, I traded. I made a big dynasty trade. I traded Todd Gurley and EQ.
Oh, I did see this.
Equanimous St. Brown. And I got back Dalvin Cook, Robbie Anderson, the 103, the 203, and the 211. How do you think that poll ended up? 6,584 people have voted on my Twitter.
I'm going to say 60-40 in favor of the Dalvin Cook side.
I'm gonna go with a number that's in between 50 and 60. Oh!
You would be correct. 55%.
I wasn't gonna predict
on
who
the
won,
Dalvin Cook side. Now, where do you guys fall on that trade?
I am on the Dalvin Cook side.
So
I think
lay it out one more time.
I
for
sent
people.
essentially I sent away Gurley, and then I included Equanimous St. Brown. So Gurley.
Threw in the potato chips with him.
Correct. The other owner had Marquez Valdez, so I said,
Oh.
hey, just take back EQ,
So when John Brown
so you
goes
can have
there,
both
he's just
of them.
gonna be so
you
sad.
have two useless players. And I received Dalvin Cook, Robbie Anderson, the 103, the 203, and the 211 in a dynasty format. What do you think?
See, the way I saw that is EQ and the 211 are a wash. Back in the second, I would draft EQ probably
I'd
in
rather
a
have
rookie
the
draft.
211.
So, if you take those out and you just trade Todd Gurley for
Dalvin Cook, Robbie Anderson, 103, 203.
that's a lot. That's good value.
Yeah.
Too much value to pass up.
It was tough because I've been the one on the show saying Gurley's fine, and he is. But I took the value. Everybody's available. Mike, if you want Patrick Mahomes, I'm willing to take a lot.
Foles?
A
Foles
lot.
for
No,
Mahomes?
not Foles.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.